Welcome, one and all, to the ancient journey. If you like the video, please give us a like and a share. And if you're into our content, please subscribe. It helps grow the channel, and it keeps us producing these videos. Today's journey, Tamam Shud, the Somerton Man. Details. Details, details, details. Any good story is just the right combination of details. Piece them together wrong and the story gets awkward or confusing. Put too many together and the story becomes too long. Leave details out and the story becomes a mystery. But this story starts with one detail and just two words, and they capture the essence of the entire tale. The scrap of paper bore the words that fit the man. It is ended. This was the translation of the Persian phrase Tamam Shud. These words found inked across a scrap of paper. The scrap had been ripped from the last page of a copy of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, a book of poetry by a brilliant mathematician called the Astronomer Poet of Persia. Two words, no more, no less, neatly printed in black ink on yellowed parchment. It wasn't long before these two words would be reunited with the others, the torn scrap of paper fitting neatly back into the book from where it was stolen. But they still wouldn't tell the story. Inside this book, once found, were more details for this tale. Some phone numbers, a number that had no meaning, and a group of letters that appeared to be some sort of code. Let's close the book now. Let's see what else is here. Before us now is an unlit cigarette, an unused rail ticket, a bus ticket, a small aluminum comb, and an empty pack of gum. A packet of cigarettes, but none of the cigarettes inside matched the brand of the pack. A quarter-full box of matches. And one last detail for this story. The body of a man found lying on the beach, posed almost as if he were taking a nap, leaning against the seawall. It's December 1st, 1948, on a beautiful coastal beach of southeastern Australia. The name of the town is Glenelg, and at 6:30 a.m. the police are contacted when the body of a man is found on the beach, deceased. He is fully and nettily dressed, and if you walked by him from a distance, he presents as a man who is just asleep. Just the night prior, folks wandering the beach had seen the man in the same position. One witness saw him fully extend his right arm and then drop it back down to the sand. The man didn't move other than that, which was odd. Glenelg was thick with mosquitoes that time of year, and they certainly would have discouraged anyone from spending that amount of time on the beach without moving. Assuming he was just drunk or asleep or both, witnesses all confessed that they had paid him no mind. The pathologist examined the body. The man appeared to be British and was also in excellent physical condition. He looked to be in his mid-40s, broad-shouldered, and had the smooth hands of someone who did not perform physical labor. What he wore would add some more flavor to this story, because for a tale so strange, finding a body on the beach wearing shorts or sandals just wouldn't do, would it? The man wore a crisp white shirt, a striped tie, brown slacks, cleanly polished shoes, a pullover sweater, and a gray and brown double-breasted suit jacket. All of the labels on his clothing had been removed. No wallet was found to point to who he was, and strangely for the time, he wore no hat. Remember, this was the 1940s. Men wore hats. The man's dental records and fingerprints didn't match any known persons. His autopsy revealed a normal-sized heart, but a large quantity of blood in the stomach and the liver. The man's spleen was swollen to a grotesque size. These clues led to the belief that the man had been poisoned, but there was no conclusive evidence to prove what he had been poisoned by or by whom. For the first time in Australian history, a man was embalmed to preserve his appearance in hopes that someone would recognize him. They name him the Somerton Man. These details are all still jumbled, aren't they? The story just isn't making a lot of sense. Don't worry, there are more details coming. Maybe they'll help clear things up. A suitcase is found in the Adelaide rail station with no label, checked into the station's coat room on November 30th. It's believed that this suitcase belonged to the poisoned beachgoer. In it were found a red checked nightgown, a red pair of slippers, underpants, pajamas, shaving items, some brown slacks with sand in the cuffs, and then came the odd items: an electrician's screwdriver and a pair of scissors with the points sharpened, a small square of zinc, a stenciling brush, a table knife sharpened to a point, orange waxed thread that had been used to stitch up the pockets of the pants, some pencils and some unused stationery, and a name, T. Keene, found written on a tie. Another name, Keene without the E on the end, was found written on an article of clothing. But missing were any letters, postcards, identification of any other kind. The name T. Keene, or Keene with no E on the end, had no meaning of any kind and could be traced to no one. Well, that didn't help clear up this story one bit. So let's get back to that scrap of paper. Police located the actual book that the scrap had been torn from. Well, just like the rest of this story, this detail is a little complicated. The book was found in July, but not in any bookstore or any library. The man who walked into the police station with the book had been keeping it in the glove box of his car, of all places. Back in December, he explained he got into a car with his brother-in-law that was parked near the beach. When he entered the car, the book was there lying on the floor. Silently, he placed it into the glove box. It was in their way. Neither man mentioned it to the other. They both thought the other had left the book there. So now police had the book and a scrap of paper matched up and fit into it like it had never been missing. But now on to those scribblings in the book. The phone number was an unlisted one, but belonged to a young nurse who lived near Somerton Beach. The nurse admitted that, she had given a copy of the book to a man named Alfred Boxall. And at last now, police had the name of the dead man on the beach. You really didn't think that was it, did you? Alfred Boxall, you see, is alive, and yes, he recalled that pretty young nurse giving him that book. In fact, he even still had it, and he showed it to the police, and there was the book, still intact. No pages had been ripped out of it, and there were no scribblings in it. So how did the dead man's book end up with the nurse's phone number in it, police wondered. They interviewed her once again, and this time they brought along a plaster cast that had been made of the dead man. The nurse again left them with very little. She claimed that at some time during the year, neighbors had told her that an unknown man had called and asked for her, but couldn't recall when this happened. And yet, when police showed her the cast of the man, the death mask, the nurse reacted uncomfortably, appearing ready to faint. She clearly recognized the man, but told police she had no idea who he was. And in keeping with the oddness of the rest of this story, all of these people remained unknown. The Australian police protected the identity of any witnesses who were related to the case that wished to remain unidentified. So what about the apparent code in the book? Could anyone make anything of it? No code breaker could make sense of it, and the prevailing theory was that it had something to do with the book, but the book had been published in so many formats that the code could have been referring to words or pages in one book that weren't in the same place in another book. They sent the code to military for code breaking, but they also struck out and indicated the letters didn't constitute any kind of simple code, but rather was most likely the initial words of a verse of poetry. In later years, the nurse has been identified as Jessica Ellen Thomas. In 2013, Jessica's daughter was interviewed and revealed that her mother did indeed know more about that dead man, but had never told police. Jessica's daughter, Kate, also said that her mother knew how to speak fluent Russian. And also, just to complicate things a bit more, Jessica had signed the book given to Alfred Boxall as Justin, even though her name at the time was Jessica Ellen Harkness. Investigators in 2009 determined that the Somerton man suffered from hypodontia, a condition where a person never grows all of their teeth. This is a condition that only affects around 2% of the population, but still it didn't help narrow down who the dead man was. And in 2010, an Adelaide woman was rummaging through her father's things and found an ID card of a man named H.C. Reynolds. The card was issued by the U.S. Department of Labor to foreign seamen during World War II. The card indicated Reynolds was British, although he may have been Australian. The picture was compared to the Somerton man, and they appeared to be a very good match, but again, just like the rest of this tale, this detail fizzled away as H.C. Reynolds lived until 1953, according to his family. There are plans to sequence more DNA from the Somerton man, but so far there has been no movement towards identification. So to this day, the Somerton man remains unidentified, and his death a mystery. Thanks for watching, and thanks for sharing the journey.